So as you guys know, I run a small digital marketing agency and I have anywhere from 3 to 5 clients at any given time. And I've been able to close them because I care about them. That's it. Now look, there's plenty more to actually selling than just genuinely caring about a business. You have to truly know what they need and be able to provide it. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about 3 tips for the sales process for your social media marketing agency. And these are 3 things that I've been over in a bunch of coaching calls with students. I feel like I keep driving this point home like for days. And they can't seem to understand. It's very, very simple. Sales is very, very simple, right? Ultimately, it's just having a service that somebody wants and then providing a bridge for them to buy it, right? And if you need to convince them that they need the service, you might not want to pitch them on the service. Now, convincing somebody that they need the service is a whole other ball field, and that's where copywriting comes into play. That's where sales psychology comes into play. But ultimately, if you're running a business and you're smart as a startup entrepreneur or somebody who's starting a brand new company or whatever, you know, look, the easiest people to sell are the people who already know the value of the service I'm providing and are already in the market to buy, but they're just looking for somebody to go with, and I'm the best option for the reasons that fit their specific business, right? So back when I was a wedding photographer, which many of you know that's where I really started my entrepreneurial journey, I was able to sell tons of clients because I didn't have to present to somebody as to why wedding photography was important for their wedding. They knew because every wedding has a wedding photographer. You don't have a wedding without a wedding photographer, right? It's just obvious. You just hire one. You need it. And so, whereas with social media marketing, a lot of people go the route of trying to convince people that they are a necessary thing for their business to grow. Don't go with those people. A part of the pre-qualifying process for a business is seeing, do they really see the value of social media? Do they see the amount of money they could make online? Do they understand the digital platform to the point where they see the value of my service? If they don't, cut them. Now that wasn't a part of the 3 tips, but that is super, super crucial for any beginner social media marketing agency owner to understand. Look, your job isn't to go out and sell people on the idea of the internet. They should already be sold on the idea of the internet. You're not there to sell them on that. Your entire job is to provide the service once they're already sold. So 3 tips for selling your services as a social media marketing agency owner. So first of all, let's say you're on a call or you're in a meeting or whatever and you're actually trying to close the service, right? A lot of people, when they present their price, directly after they present their price, let's say you're charging $3,000 a month for your service. Okay, you know, business owner, I'm charging you $3,000 a month. Here's what I'm charging. And then immediately after they present their price, they go on to talk about what comes with it, or they go on to justify. Essentially what they're doing is justifying that price. You want to do all of your justifying before you present the price. Justifying. You want to do all of your authority building, all of your rapport building, all of your, making sure we're a perfect match stuff before you present the price. Then once you present the price, don't justify it. Like literally, I've been on calls, and I do this with any service that you'll ever sell. Any service that you'll ever sell. Even back to when I was doing wedding photography, and I actually went to physical coffee shops and met with my clients, every single one of them, met with them individually, in person, had a contract in front of me, a pin in front of me. I learned this the hard way. You don't say your price, and then if they're like looking at each other like kind of weird, you don't go, oh, but we can do lower if you guys, like, no desperate, nothing that hints that you're desperate in any way, because you're not, because there's tons of clients out there. You want to maintain that authority. And the reason why you don't justify the price is because if they aren't already sold on the idea of working with you, then it's not a good fit. It's just that simple, right? You want to know your niche to the point where those first follow-up meetings are so valuable for them that they want to work, they're excited to work with you. So it all comes back to having a service that's actually viable. If you're having to justify your price, it means that your service isn't actually that good, and there's really no reason for you to be in the market trying to sell it. If you are having to justify why you're charging that much, it means that they aren't convinced of the value of the service, or you're pricing yourself horribly high and you need to check yourself, right? You want to be taking 1/10 of the amount of value that you bring to a client at most, right? So if you're going to make them $100,000 a month, the biggest amount that you can take from that is $10,000 a month. That's the absolute most that you should take from that, right? If you're working with a smaller business and you're working with lifetime value of a customer, let's say you get them 20 customers that pay them $200 a month. That's, what is that, $4,000 a month, I think is the right number for that. Maybe more than that, 40,000. I can't do my math in my head, I'm sorry. But you get the point. You want to take 1/10 of that at max. So that's how you price yourself. That's a huge sales tip for social media marketing. Own your price, don't justify it. Next is a idea called authority jacking. And authority jacking essentially is if you don't have authority yet and you're brand new to the social media marketing space, if you're brand new to the social media marketing space and you don't have authority yet, you're going to want to find a place to grab authority. What I do is, I've contracted in, I keep hitting my table, I've contracted in people who work under me. Facebook ad people, landing page people, whoever. And they have case studies from previous people that they've worked with or previous clients that they've taken on personally. So I literally just leverage their case studies when I'm pitching to the client. Because it is my case study. That is mine because they're providing the service. That is my team. So I hope that makes sense. You want to authority jack from the people who are ultimately driving the service if you have them doing it. A lot of people think that they have to drive the service. You actually don't. You can outsource it, and frankly, you can scale faster that way. Or you can also authority jack from blog posts online or YouTubers online or whoever you follow in that niche. You can get online if, let's say, you're servicing gyms. I just got off a coaching call with a guy who services gyms. And he was like, okay, how do I build authority with a gym quickly? Even though I've done this never, so he's a totally new guy. I said, well, you need to get online, find somebody who has serviced gyms and has gotten results for them, and then drive that, and then show them that you're capable of doing that, right? So like, here's this guy who uses this is what you're doing to the client. You're pulling from the internet, you're saying, here's this guy who does the exact same service as me, and he literally does everything the exact same way. Here's his case study, right? And they're not going to question that. The client isn't going to be like, can you do the same thing? If you're like, yeah, this is an associate of mine, or whatever, here you go, here's the results he's driven, they're going to trust that, right? And if they don't trust that, again, it's because they don't understand enough about the internet and about how digital marketing works, and you cut them as a client. It doesn't work like that, right? And then lastly, a third tip of 3 is make it about the client. So a lot of people make it about them. They make it about pitching themselves. They make it about, here's how cool I am, here's how good I am. The only time you have to do that is when it's necessary to show the client results. That's the only time you have to make it about you. Otherwise, it's completely about the client, and it's about solving their problem. Because ultimately, you're not solving a problem for you other than money. That's the only problem that you're solving. And they're not interested in giving you money. They don't want to give you money. They want to solve their problem. So if you make it about the client and make it about their problem and make it about their niche's problems that they solve, let's say they're in the restaurant niche. Let's say, I don't know much about restaurant niche. I know a lot of people focus on that, but I don't. Let's say you're in that niche. Let's say the main problem with restaurants is, having the right demographic or something for their food or whatever. If you know that that's the typical problem that they have, then you're able to speak to that and you can build that authority with them quickly as long as you make it about them, right? That's how you make it about them, is you know their problems and you know the things that they struggle with so that you can solve them quickly, swiftly, and efficiently. If you are trying to, let's say, you're pitching to a gym owner and you're saying, oh, I've been doing this for 3 years. It's like, okay, that builds a little authority with you. It's like, oh, you could be like, I spend like 8-9 hours a day studying this stuff. It's like, that could be taken either way. You're still learning. You still have to learn this. And also, I don't care that you spend 8 or 9 hours a day learning this stuff. You could even say stuff like, my team is great. We got 4 people. They don't care about, you see what I'm saying? Like, they don't care about your team. All they care, if you're going to tell them that stuff after you tell them the results that you've driven or that your associate who you authority jacked from has driven. And then they're like, oh, how'd you do that? You can say, well, I study this stuff and, it's my life and I love it and it's a blast. So start with them. Start with them and then slowly present how you're the perfect solution for them. So start with them. And a lot of people don't do that, right? And some business owners are attracted to that sort of cocky, like, I can come in and totally change your life sort of attitude. But I learned the hard way that, my agency was light labeled. And I'll give you this story. I learned the hard way why that doesn't work. My agency was white labeled by this guy. He's a local dude. He's a great dude. I love him. He's an awesome guy. I'm not going to say his name though. And he essentially went around promising the moon. Like he went just business to business to business, like selling service, which is digital marketing, and he's sort of new to the digital marketing thing. He just got a ton of referrals and a ton of connections locally in the state of Indiana. And so he's going around selling it. And then after he sells it, he looks for somebody to provide that service, which is smart if you have good people lined up to do it and are in that niche. But the problem is he's promising like the moon. He's promising such high, big things. And then he comes back and he looks for somebody to provide that service. He's like, hey, I told this client I could get them $400,000 in the first 6 months. Can you come and do that? And at one point, I was the guy that he came to do that. So the problem was he didn't make it about the client. He didn't really truly understand what they wanted. And therefore, we came in and we delivered some results. But because he promised the moon and didn't actually figure out what it was that the client wanted up front, we weren't able to deliver results for them. Now, had he actually spoken to the client and figured out, oh, that's specifically your goals, that's what you need, that's what your niche looks like, those are your problems, instead of just pitching left and right, then we would have been able to service the client really, really well and gotten them tons of results. But because he thought we could make a certain amount of money, but in reality, because it's just the business and it's nothing on our end that we can handle, we were only able to make them a certain amount, the business was upset with us as if it was our fault. But the reality is we could spend $4 billion in Facebook ads and nothing would change because this is a problem on the businesses and not Facebook ads, right? So you got to understand, you got to make it about the client. It makes it easier for you, and it makes it easier for the business, and it makes it easier to sell ultimately. So that is a lot of stuff. That is a lot of sales psychology for social media marketing, and actually how to get out there and prove your value to people and show that you're a viable option. And I talked a little bit as well about, the warm and cold traffic. So, in marketing, social media marketing, digital marketing, there's warm traffic, there's, hot traffic, and there's cold traffic. That's sort of a spectrum. You want to target with your cold calling or your outreach or whatever it is that you do to get clients, even referrals, you want to target people who already understand the value of the service. That's warm traffic. Same with wedding photography. If I sold cold to people who had never heard of the idea of having a guy take photos at their wedding before, then I would have never been able to close a client or maybe I would be able to sometimes, but it wouldn't happen often because I'd have to sell the idea first. So that's probably the most important thing. Then all of these 3 tips come into play. So once again, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Leave a comment if you have any questions of any kind. And if you're interested in coaching, I have a link for that in the description. You can go ahead and check that out and work with me one-on-one. Thanks once again for everything, and I will see you in the next video.